everybody, my name is Michelle and in this video I am yet again doing a massive book haul. So in the past couple of weeks, again, I bought a lot of books that I really want to read. What can I say? It's just, yeah, sometimes I go through these kinds of phases. And as of right now, I am in a massive book buying phase. And I'm also in a really good reading mood, so that helps as well. I just get excited about everything that I see. And of course that the bookshops are now open again also isn't really helping when it comes to my book buying addiction. But I mean, also at the same time, I really enjoy it because, of course, you know, bookshops, books. But I think I'm just going to start with this video because I think you probably all know the drill by now when it comes to a book haul. I am going to show you all the books that I've bought in the past couple of weeks, mainly in May and also a bit at the end of April. And I hope you will enjoy it. And yeah, I think we should just get started. The first book that I bought was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So this is a contemporary novel with a bit of a, I guess, magical twist, with lack of a better word. Because this book is about a young woman named Nora Seed, and Nora is very unhappy and she decides to end her own life. But at the moment that she decides to do that, at the stroke of midnight, she somehow ends up in this very mysterious midnight library. And in this place, Nora is able to experience different versions of her own life based on different decisions that she would have made throughout her life. And she thinks that this might be the way to take a look at all her regrets and to make up for them and maybe create a better life for herself. So this book, it is very popular, and I think it's also Matt Haig's latest release, although I'm not really sure when it was released. It has been a little while, I think. Except that I wasn't really interested in this book until very recently when I started seeing some more reviews and I saw the premise. And the reason that I wasn't interested in it initially is that I read another book by Matt Haig, which is How to Stop Time, and that book just really did not do it for me. It was okay, but it was also very boring and too long and it was dragging. But I'm not going to do a book review for a completely other book right now. I'm talking about The Midnight Library. So when I heard all the positive reviews and the premise sounded so interesting, and apparently it is very good mental health representation and it's very good about that topic, I decided to give the book a try, and I'm actually currently reading it as of filming this video. And as of right now, I can say that I'm very happy that I did decide to give it another chance, because as of right now I'm really enjoying it. So that's very nice, and I'm very happy that, yeah, that I tried his work again, and I'm very happy that I bought this book. But I still need to finish it, which I think will happen soon because it's not a very long book, and if you want to hear my final thoughts on it, then you should watch out for my, what month is it again? May wrap up. So that will probably be here in 2 weeks time. Then for the next book that I bought, I have Shuggie Bain, I hope that is the right pronunciation, by Douglas Stewart. This is a book that I bought at the bookshop because they are open again, which is so nice. And yes, I have been back to the bookshop since my latest bookshop vlog, so I will probably do another bookshop vlog at some point. I just don't do it every single time I go to the bookstore. But yeah, this book I bought on another one of my trips because it was just basically everywhere. I saw it so often lying around that it really drew my attention, and I saw that it had like the 2020 Booker Prize, things like that. I don't think awards like that are always telling if a book is good, but it at least makes me intrigued to see what the story is actually about. So I don't know that much about the premise, but what I do know is that it's about a young boy who is called Hugh, but he's actually called Shuggie. I hope, again, that's the right pronunciation. Maybe it's sort of like a Scottish thing. Because the book does take place in Scotland and in the 1980s and the 1990s, and it's a bit of a weird time from what I've gathered. So that is all I know about the premise, which isn't much, I know, but I do know that I usually very much enjoy stories that sound like this. Stories that take place in the near past and span like a longer time span, like multiple decades and things like that. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different than that, I don't know. And also it just kept staring at me at the bookstore, so that is why I wanted to buy it. I felt like it was sort of meant to be, like I just had to have it. And I think it sounds like a good one, so I am very excited to see what it's actually about. The next book that I bought is also from the bookstore, and that is A History of What Comes Next by Sylvan Novelle. So you probably recognize the author's name, at least if you've watched a couple of videos on this channel because it's also the author of the Sleeping Giants trilogy, which is a sci-fi book series that I enjoy and love very much. And this is Sylvan Novel's latest release, and it's again sci-fi-ish. It's also sort of in the past. It's sort of a mix of between, I think. Because apparently it takes place during World War II, but then the main character, what she called Mia, is part of she's sort of like an alien, and she's sent to help the Allies out in World War II. And that sounds very weird to me, but also very intriguing. And honestly, I didn't need to know much about the story because this was definitely an auto-buy. Wow, that sounded weird. But I'm someone who is very much loyal to certain authors. If I love a book very much, then I always want to read the other things that that author produces or writes. And this is just another case of that. I saw it at the bookstore. I had heard about it a tiny little bit, but I haven't heard any reviews actually. I just haven't really sought out any reviews as of right now. But I think it's going to be a fun one. At least I hope so, because, you know, if it's anything like the Sleeping Giant series, then I know I will love it. Then the next book of this haul is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. So this book is actually very interesting because it's based on Hamnet, the son of William Shakespeare, and who was apparently also the model for Hamlet, the play. Question mark, actually not sure. But you know me, anything that has to do with historical fiction and things like that, I love. I always enjoy so much. And this is based on a true story, at least, you know, with things like that you never know exactly what happened because it's not really like the son of William Shakespeare was a very well-known historical character on his own. So I'm guessing it's sort of like a fictionalized version of events, but still, that is something that I always enjoy so much. Because historical fiction is just, wow, my thing, especially when it comes to Tudor England, and this takes place in Tudor England. It sounds so exciting and interesting, and I can never have enough historical fiction on my shelf, especially English history. It's just my favorite thing. And this premise and this story called out to me. I had to have it, so that is why I bought it and why it's now on my shelves. And it looks very pretty, it sounds interesting, and I hope I can read it soon. And I hope I will love it. Another one that I found in the bookstore that I had never heard about before is Regeneration by Pat Barker. And this is, again, historical fiction. I guess I'm kind of predictable at this point, but you know, I'm not mad about it. I like it. And this one takes place during World War II, and it's about a war hospital and the soldiers that are there who are shell-shocked and traumatized. And it's about the, psychiatrist William Rivers, who is treating them, and basically about how horrifying it is and how he does not want to send them back into the war, basically. I had never heard about this book before, never. I was just scrolling through the books in the bookstore. I saw this one, it sounded interesting because even though I love historical fiction, I haven't actually read that much historical fiction that takes place during World War I. Most of them usually take place during World War II, so I guess it's kind of mixing it up a little bit. But I think the cover is also very interesting. It's a bit of a smaller book, and I thought, not completely sure, but I also thought that it was the first book in a series, which would be interesting because historical fiction book series aren't that usual. They don't happen that often, but I hope so. That would be fun. And yeah, I'm really curious to see what it's about again, and I hope I will love it again. The next book in my haul is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. This is also quite a famous one. I think you've probably seen this cover before because I had many times before I actually bought the book. And apparently this book tells the story of 12 different characters, and these stories are somehow intertwined with each other, which I guess is something a little bit different, something that I don't read that often, so something that is a bit different always grabs my attention. And also, as you can see from the cover, it has won a bunch of prizes. Apparently the reviews are raving, they are very good, which sounds promising and interesting. So yeah, again, again. It sounded very interesting to me, and I hope I will enjoy it. And I'm not sure when I'm going to read this. It might be a while because I have so many books on my TBR right now, but I don't want to wait too long with reading it because it does sound like it's a good one. Then I also bought The Corset by Laura Purcell, and I'm actually not sure if this is historical fiction. I just assumed because it was called The Corset, but maybe I should check, by the way. I think so. I think it is historical fiction, but I cannot really seem to find the time period, so I guess I will figure that out once I read the book. But the story is about two women from very different backgrounds, and one is called Dorothea, and she is young and wealthy and she's very much into charitable work. And the other one is named Ruth, and she is in prison and she is a self-confessed murderer. And their paths intertwine, and apparently they have more of a shared past than they had realized, I guess, not sure. But it's about that. That is kind of the story. And again, I just assumed that it was historical fiction, and I think it is. And again, I really love those kinds of stories. I also really enjoy books where you have two main characters from different backgrounds and then they, you know, collide and they have a shared story together. It sounds perfect to me, and I was also very much drawn to the cover because, as you can see, I think the design is just gorgeous, and I think a cover, it's not the most important thing, but it's also still important. And it sounds like a very beautiful story, and I hope it will prove to be a beautiful story as well, and I'm excited. Then I also bought The House in the Carillion Sea by T.J. Klune. At first I thought this book was a middle grade based on the cover, because I feel like it has such a middle grade-ish cover. But apparently it's not, but at the same time I'm actually also not completely sure, but I don't think it is. The main character is a man named Linus, and he leads a very quiet life alone. He's in his 40s. But then he gets this weird assignment that has to do with an orphanage and children who have magical powers. Sounds weird, sounds interesting, I don't know. What I do know is that I've heard quite a few people talk about it recently, and quite a few people really seem to love it. And that sparked my interest. When people talk about something, I just have to know if it's actually that good, because the premise, honestly, it just doesn't sound that special to me. But I do know from experience that a premise can sound very weird or very vague, and it still ends up being very surprising and very good. And I hope that this book will be that for me, because yeah, if so many people seem to love it, then there has to be something right about it. And I will read it myself and give it my own opinion, but I really hope it's going to be a positive opinion, because, you know, I always hope so. Nobody starts to read a book and hopes that it's not a good one, but yeah, with this one it's going to be a complete surprise to me. I have no idea what I'm going to think of it. Then I also got a new release by one of my favorite authors that I'm so excited about, and that is The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. Kate Quinn, I love her so much. She's the author of The Alice Network, which is one of my favorite books. I adore that book. It's just amazing. She's also the author of The Huntress, which is also a very good book, also historical fiction. And this is her new release, which makes me so happy to have it, to hold it, and to hopefully read it very soon. And this book apparently centers around the royal wedding of the then Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip. And then there are three fictional characters, three young women that also have stories that are intertwined with that. To be honest, I don't really care what the premise is, because I know if it's a Kate Quinn book and it's historical fiction, then I will love it. That's just a given. She writes such beautiful stories, especially when it comes to like the different perspectives and things like that. And this book sounds like it's in the right, or like in the same category as her previous two books, which is going to make me so happy. And again, I'm very loyal to an author once like I've loved their work. So I really want to read The Rose Code very soon. I've already had it for a couple of weeks and I still have not read it, which is almost unforgivable to me, but it's going to be fun and it's going to be beautiful. I'm so sure of it. Then I also bought a non-fiction book, and that is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And this book is all about how basically our digital lives are so extreme right now, and how it's basically taking over our minds and our lives and things like that. And how we should try to keep our digital life a bit more minimal, and how we should try to spend a bit less time online and on the internet. I bought this because I felt like I was kind of getting addicted to my phone, and it was supposed to be the start of a project that I sort of kind of abandoned halfway through, but that I want to give another start very soon. But you know, I still have the book. And I do know that Cal Newport has also some other books, like Not Getting Things Done, that's another one. I'm actually not sure. I know he has some other work concerning productivity and like working and being focused. But this one specifically is about our digital lives, which I think is very interesting to read about, because I do think that digitalism is just, it's grown so much in such a short amount of time, and we spend so much time on the internet, on our phones, that I think it's actually a good idea to read a bit about it and to be aware of certain things and how it's so much more addictive than we actually realize. Next book in this haul is The Mothers by Brit Bennett, which I bought because I recently finished The Vanishing Half, also by Brit Bennett. That book was amazing. It was so good, but again, more on that in my May wrap up. That is not for right now. But again, once I love the work of an author, I want to read her other work, which is The Mothers in the case of Brit Bennett. And this was actually her first book, but it just didn't get like the same amount of hype as the second book has right now. It's not like a series, it's just like her work, like her first work and her second work. But The Mothers is about a teen pregnancy and a teenage mother, and it's about more that is going on, and I think it's in like a small town or something like that. Actually not sure. I just saw it, the story sounded interesting, and I knew it was Brit Bennett, so I wanted to have it. I do really like the cover because it's in like the same style as the cover of The Vanishing Half, and I also think that it's not really a very big book. It's actually quite small, which I do like to have because it's nice to read a smaller book every once in a while amidst all the massive books that I also own. It looks pretty, it sounds interesting, and I'm very much a fan of The Vanishing Half, which is just a perfect combination for me to buy a book, and that is exactly what happens. Another new release that I recently received is Ariadne by Jennifer Saints, and this is a Ariadne retelling, which is a Greek myth, and it tells the story of Ariadne, who was a princess, and the Minotaur and Theseus. I don't want to say too much apart from that about the story and the myth, because I do know the myth and I know how it ends and everything. Maybe this book will end the same, I actually don't know. That's something that I have to find out, because of course it is a retelling, but I really love Greek myths, and this one sounded like a beautiful retelling. Apparently it's very well done, which sounds like just perfect to me. And also, oh, the cover is stunning, and I don't know what it is with like those Greek retellings, and they're beautiful, beautiful covers, but they do it so well. Circe by Madeline Miller is also one of those books that is just gorgeous, and also a Greek myth retelling, and it's very basic. I love Greek myths. This is a Greek myth retelling. That is why I bought it. My next book is a fantasy book. It's also the second book in a duology, and it is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. And it's the second book in the King of Scars duology, which is kind of a sequel series to both Shadow and Bone and the Six of Crows series, duology series, whatever. It is another series that takes place in the Grishaverse, which is this fantasy world where some people are Grisha, which means that they have special powers. There's a lot more that is going on, and this book, or like this duology, I'm assuming is specifically based on the events of the previous series, because it follows a couple of characters from those series. The first book is King of Scars. I have not read King of Scars yet, but I'm in such a massive Grishaverse mood right now because of the Netflix adaptation, which I'm sure you've heard about because it has been everywhere. And I have been rereading the Shadow and Bone series and the Six of Crows duology, and after I have finished that, I want to finally read the King of Scars duology, because the first book has been there for ages. I still have not read it yet. But the second book, Rule of Wolves, is actually quite a new release. I believe it hasn't been out that long. But once I start reading it, I just want to read the entire duology in one go, because otherwise I'm going to put it behind me, I'm going to forget about it, which is not what I want, because it happens way too often. And that is why I bought Rule of Wolves. And also, like, it is gorgeous. Like, oh, the Grisha covers are just so pretty, and also underneath, oh my god, love it. It is so pretty. It is also a big one. It is very big and it's beautiful, and I'm so excited for it because, oh, I love Leigh Bardugo's work so much. And then we're at the final book of this haul, and that one is Beyond Beautiful by Anushka Rees. This is again a non-fiction book, and this is very much what the title says it is. It is about being beyond beautiful, and it's about body positivity and about loving yourself, which is something that I'm not always the best at, but I want to make it an effort to read more about that and to kind of see if I can do better with that. And this book, from what I've heard and from what I've seen, is a very good one and also a very popular one. It sounded very interesting to me and very much something that I want to read and something that I want to learn more about. And I just think works like this are very good, and to, you know, kind of learn how to love yourself, which is, yeah, what it says, that it's about being happy, confident, and you in a looks obsessed world, which is very true. And let's go for that, let's make that happen. And I hope this book will help me a little bit with that. I hope it will teach me some things. In any case, I do think it's pretty, which is maybe a bit ironic when it comes to like a looks obsessed world, but I still think it's pretty, and I hope it will be very informative. And I guess that was it for my May book haul, my massive May book haul with all the books that I've bought in the past couple of weeks. Again, it was quite a ride. There were again a lot of books, but I'm not sorry about it. I'm very happy with all of them. And I have such high hopes for all of them as well. And they sound so good. And I know, I don't need more books, because trust me, I have enough books on my TBR already. But I just feel like I need them still, even though I don't really need them, if that makes sense. But that's just me. I just get so happy when I have new books, and actually I have already read, or I'm reading one of them. So, you know, it's not too bad, hopefully. But this is it for this video. I really hope you liked it and that you enjoyed it. And if you did, maybe go subscribe, give it a thumbs up, or leave a comment and tell me about a book that you have recently loaned or received or bought, or that you've recently read. Or maybe which book out of these I should read first. It would also be very helpful to hear, because I'm so bad at making choices and at deciding what I want to read next. In any case, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and then hopefully I will see you again very soon in my next one. And until then, bye!